On this Saturday night, China's top court spares a Canadian life. The death sentence for Robert Schellenberg, charged with drug smuggling in China, is overturned. How trade diplomacy
now at least there's a possibility of quid pro quo
may be behind the thaw in relations. Arctic security under threat.
We will always choose collaboration and cooperation.
Canada opens a consulate in Greenland as talks between the Arctic nation and the U.S. remain tense. Also, the FBI conducts a new search of Nancy Guthrie's home after receiving a second message about her abduction. Plus, Canada's first medal of the Milano-Cortina Olympic Games. And a love story on ice.
We had very similar work ethics, very similar goals, obviously.
The Canadian curlers, who've become more than just teammates.
Global National. Reporting tonight, Colleen Christie.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. We begin tonight with dramatic developments in the case of Robert Schellenberg, the Canadian national detained on drug smuggling charges for more than a decade in China. China's top court has struck down Schellenberg's death sentence and ordered a new trial, a sign of a diplomatic thaw between Beijing and Ottawa after years of strained relations. Schellenberg was originally sentenced to 15 years in prison, a term that increased on appeal after the arrest of Huawei chief financial officer Meng Wanzhou in Vancouver in 2018 at the behest of the U.S. Beijing then arrested Canadians Michael Spavor and Michael Kovrig, a move Ottawa denounced as retaliatory. The decision to order a retrial for Schellenberg follows Prime Minister Mark Carney's high-stakes trip to China last month, one that focused on resetting ties in the face of the U.S. president's intensified tariff pressures. Nathaniel Dove has our top story tonight.
Canada condemns this verdict on all possible terms.
Canada's then ambassador to China responding to the worst-case scenario for a Canadian imprisoned in the country. Chinese authorities arrested Robert Schellenberg in 2014 for alleged drug trafficking and sentenced him to 15 years, though he pleaded innocent. 1 month after Canada arrested Meng Wanzhou in 2018, an executive in a top Chinese company, China sentenced Schellenberg to death and denied his appeal. On Friday, the country's top court threw out that sentence and announced a retrial. In a statement, a spokesperson said Schellenberg's family is still processing the news, but are very encouraged and hoping for positive outcomes.
I do not have visibility on the reasons that they undertake particular decisions.
Canada's foreign minister says she raised the issue several times with Chinese diplomats.
Welcome.
Though China's announcement comes less than a month after Ottawa and Beijing agreed to drop some tariffs. A legal expert says the case has always had unusual timing, indicating to him two things.
One is that there definitely are political influences in this case. But the second thing is that I think that there are people in the system that have serious doubts about whether he's guilty.
China imprisoned two other Canadians, Michael Kovrig and Michael Spavor, for nearly 3 years, arresting them just after Canada arrested Wanzhou.
Canada is not even remotely ready.
As the countries draw closer, Kovrig cautions more engagement also means greater vulnerability, because China remains an authoritarian state hostile to democracies.
Canada needs to match any increases in engagement with greater vigilance, and also with even tighter and more careful coordination with allies.
Right now, it's still not clear when the retrial will happen and which court will hold it. Legal expert Donald Clark says that affects what part of the process will be relitigated, even if the whole thing is restarted. Either way, it does not yet look likely that Schellenberg will be returning to Canada anytime soon. Colleen?
Nathaniel Dove in Toronto, thank you. Foreign Affairs Minister Anita Anand has wrapped up her trip to Greenland, but not before stressing Canada's desire to deepen diplomatic engagement and cooperation with the Danish territory.
And we will always choose collaboration and cooperation.
Anand made the trip to Greenland's capital for the opening of a new Canadian consulate yesterday, following President Trump's threats to take control of Greenland. The Danish territory's foreign minister says things have been trending in a positive direction, but there is still a lot of uncertainty.
We are not there where we want to be yet. There is going to be a long track. So where we're going to land at the end, it's too early to say.
Denmark's foreign minister says new meetings with the United States are scheduled. President Trump says he will not apologize for a video he shared on social media mocking former President Barack Obama and former First Lady Michelle using a racist trope.
Do you condemn the racist parts of the video?
Of course I do. I liked the beginning. I saw it and just passed it on. And I guess probably nobody reviewed the end of it because what I saw at the beginning was really, really strong.
The video posted on Trump's Truth Social account was later deleted. The White House claims a staffer erroneously made the post. The video has drawn widespread condemnation from Democrats and Republicans. Today's Show co-host Savannah Guthrie has issued a new plea to her mother Nancy's potential kidnappers a week after she vanished. She says her family is willing to pay a ransom.
We beg you now to return our mother to us so that we can celebrate with her. This is the only way we will have peace. This is very valuable to us, and we will pay.
It's not clear whether Savannah Guthrie is responding to a new message recently sent to news outlets, which authorities are investigating. Candice Cole reports.
Everyone is looking for you, Mommy, everywhere.
As the search for 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie, mother of Today host Savannah Guthrie, continues, a week after her disappearance, investigators say they've come across another message from Guthrie's presumed kidnappers, which reportedly contains sensitive information, according to local station KOLD. An earlier ransom note sent Tuesday demanded a Bitcoin payment in exchange for her return, with a deadline of 5 p.m. Thursday and a second deadline of Monday, February 9th. Investigators are now inspecting the second message to verify its authenticity, but neither provided any information on how to reach the sender.
We need you to reach out, and we need a way to communicate with you so we can move forward. But first, we have to know that you have our mom. We want to talk to you, and we are waiting for contact.
Guthrie was first reported missing from her home outside of Tucson, Arizona Sunday after she was dropped off the night before following dinner with her family. She is said to be without critical medication necessary to keep her alive. In the weeks since Guthrie went missing, the FBI and local law enforcement have been working to find her captors with little luck on new leads. Friday, they returned to Guthrie's home for an extensive sweep on her sprawling property where they towed away this vehicle. While little new information has been made public, President Donald Trump, who directed federal law enforcement to get involved in the search, told reporters Friday,
We have some clues, I think, that are very strong, and I think we could have some answers coming up fairly soon. A lot's taken place in the last couple of hours.
A $50,000 reward is being offered for information concerning Guthrie's whereabouts. Candice Cole, Global News, Washington.
There are crippling fuel shortages in Cuba as that U.S. oil blockade shows no end in sight. The streets of Havana are largely devoid of vehicles and gas stations are running dry. Cubans are limited to buying just 20 liters at a time, and public buses in the capital have stopped running, forcing people to walk or hitchhike. On Friday, the Cuban government unveiled wide-ranging fuel restrictions as the U.S. threatens tariffs on any country exporting fuel to Cuba. Earlier this week, the Canadian government upgraded its travel warning, advising tourists that power outages and shortages of fuel and food could affect resorts. In Italy, where the Milano-Cortina Winter Games are underway, disruptions have hit several railway services in what authorities believe are acts of coordinated sabotage linked to the Games. Police reported incidents in several locations, causing hours-long delays for travelers in Milan and other transportation hubs. They involve severed electric cables, fires on rail infrastructure, and a simple explosive found on a track. Authorities say it mirrors similar transit disruptions ahead of the 2024 Paris Olympics. An investigation is underway. At the Games themselves, Canada has captured some early glory on the first full day of competition. In speed skating, Quebec's Valérie Maltais earned Canada's first medal of the Games. The 35-year-old won bronze in the women's 3,000 meter. And Team Canada finally got to play in women's hockey, winning in their first match against Switzerland. It comes after their game against Finland was postponed Thursday due to a norovirus outbreak on the Finnish team. Mike Armstrong is covering the Olympics in Italy and has more, starting with that first big medal win. Mike.
Well, Colleen, Valérie Maltais, a three-time Olympian with a gold medal to her name already, added to her resume with a medal here in Milan this morning. Valérie Maltais finished second in her last race, but behind the Italian who won the gold with an Olympic record time. The women had to wait for 2 more races to be completed, but their times held up. Maltais, the 35-year-old from Saguenay, Quebec, says she wasn't surprised to win the bronze, but she was relieved.
It's so much satisfaction, and I'm so proud to just believe, trusted my gut that I had something in me, and I could achieve that podium.
Basically fell on the second roller.
Canada's snowboard team has another injury. Marietta Odine fractured her ankle. She won 2 medals at the last Olympics, but has had to pull out after a crash in training.
I did get up and I asked to snowboard down, and then once I took a couple steps, then I realized that things in my knee and my ankle weren't as good as I thought they were.
Not much has changed.
The Canadian women's hockey team met the media prior to their game Saturday night. Their start at these Olympics was delayed. Their opening game was postponed when Team Finland was hit by a highly contagious stomach virus. The players say they're trying to stay loose and stay healthy.
I mean, we were kind of just laughing because obviously during the COVID Olympics, we were expecting those things a little more than this time around.
We're just trying our best to keep our distance and go to the dining hall during times where it's not super busy, and we've been doing a lot of hand washing.
It was a rough day for Canada's mixed doubles curling team. Jocelyn Peterman and Brett Gallant took 2 losses in the round robin. They're now on the bubble to make the semifinals. But they are not out of it yet, and still a great story to follow. Later in the show, we're going to have a profile of Peterman and Gallant and a family created by mixed doubles.
Heading back to the office more often. Coming up, the federal employees push back against the new 4-day-a-week rule. And former Prime Minister Stephen Harper makes history at Library and Archives Canada. At least 1 person is dead and another is missing after back-to-back storms battered Spain and Portugal with torrential rain and strong winds, closing roads and disrupting rail service. In southern Spain, more than 11,000 people have been forced to leave their homes as the country's weather service warns more rain is on the way. Here at home, extreme cold is the problem for southern Ontario. Environment Canada is warning of wind chills near -35 for a large section of the province this weekend. And some areas could see blowing snow with wind gusts up to 80 kilometers an hour. Federal public servants will soon be expected to spend more time in the office. Unions are pushing back against this latest order, one that comes as Ottawa looks to cut thousands of jobs. And as Jillian Piper reports, for many, it feels like a betrayal.
Public servants who rallied behind the Prime Minister in his Ottawa riding during the election may be second-guessing their decision.
We will control our destiny with the right plan.
That plan now includes bringing government workers back into the office 4 days a week, up from the current 3.
They feel that the government, doesn't have their back.
The country's largest public sector union says the new directive will force employees into unsafe working conditions in old government buildings, with workers reporting infestations from rats, bed bugs, and bats, which can be avoided with remote work.
We know that it works, and it's actually cheaper. It will save the government $6 billion by getting rid of leaseholds and buildings that should have been decommissioned.
The union president is looking at all options to fight back, including legal action, and believes Ottawa is purposefully trying to push civil servants out.
I think that it is a pressure tactic, a bullying move to get people to say, you know what, we don't want to be employed. Because why would they?
Budget that everyone can support.
The November budget promises to cut at least 16,000 public servants, either by layoff, attrition, or early retirement, with government charts showing the reductions will go further than Stephen Harper's did, an approach the Prime Minister has defended.
The public service has grown by over 40%, the federal public service 40% in the last
dead date. That's tough to sustain.
Any reaction to public servants?
Heather McPherson, an MP vying to be the next leader of the NDP, says mandating civil service workers back to the office adds insult to injury for the employees wondering if their jobs will be cut.
I don't understand why the government thinks that they can continually pick away at our public service and not take care of workers that are running the institutions that Canadians depend upon in this country.
The government says it recognizes this decision is occurring during a challenging period when employees are already dealing with uncertainty and promised to engage with union bargaining agents on how to best implement this new approach. Jillian Piper, Global News, Ottawa.
Ahead, what Stephen Harper's archives reveal 20 years after he became Prime Minister. Prince Edward Island is going to have a new premier. Rob Lentz will become PEI's premier after winning the Conservative Party leadership today. He'd been named the party's interim leader and interim premier last February following the resignation of Dennis King. He'll be sworn in Monday. It's been 20 years since Stephen Harper became Prime Minister. On Friday, he was at Library and Archives Canada to formally inaugurate his prime ministerial archives. The records of Harper's time in office form the single largest digital archive the institution has ever received. And as David Aiken reports, the information it contains dispels a widely held myth about Harper's time at the top.
The myth, created by his supporters as well as his detractors, was that Stephen Harper was a one-man decision-making band, working long nights alone in his office to guide the Canadian ship of state. But the man himself says, not true.
With any decision that was a government decision, as opposed to a specifically prime ministerial decision, they were done by cabinet.
And the paper trail to back that up is now at Library and Archives Canada.
No decision, no matter how small, in our office or in our government ever got made other than in writing. We did not do oral decisions, which lead to all kinds of chaos.
That paper trail forms the core of the Stephen J. Harper Fond, the archival collection, more than 600 boxes of paper records and 400,000 digital records, photographs, videos, and electronic documents.
The acquisition of Mr. Harper's files marked the largest digital archival acquisition ever undertaken by Library and Archives Canada at the time.
The collection also includes 50 hours of interviews Harper gave over the last few years while the archive was being created.
This will, at some point, become available for future researchers.
Harper also believes that whether you agreed with his policies or not, the written record of how he governed will be valuable to future leaders of governments and other large organizations.
It is just so essential that those who are going to lead in the future find ways to cut through that and make sure that they are actually making decisions in a considered manner.
Harper said that the process of assisting with the preparation of these archives helped prompt him to finish his memoirs. He's working on a second draft right now and look for publication in November. Colleen.
David Aiken in Ottawa. Thanks, David. What happens when you fall for your Olympic partner? A Canadian curling love story. Next. When you're an Olympic athlete dedicating a lot of time to competition and training, the road to finding love can be rocky. But for one Canadian couple, rocks paved the way. You see, Jocelyn Peterman and Brett Gallant met as mixed curling partners. Now, as Mike Armstrong explains, they're competing at Milano-Cortina as husband and wife with a little one in tow.
They are both Olympic veterans. At the last Games, Jocelyn Peterman was part of the women's team and finished 5th. Brett Gallant was with the men and won bronze. This time around, they're competing together, and they say it feels right.
I mean, honestly, mixed doubles being an Olympic discipline was the start of our relationship. It looks close.
Running.
It looks like it's back 8.
Mixed doubles is a fairly new version of the sport they grew up playing. When the Olympics added it to the 2018 Games, Gallant looked around for a potential playing partner.
I asked Jocelyn if she wanted to curl together, and then our whole relationship kind of started from there, both kind of on and off the ice. So we've kind of come full circle now where we're kind of living out that dream of competing together in the Olympics, but there's kind of 9, nearly 10 years of history there, a family now, and yeah, it's a pretty cool story, I guess.
Now, it took a while for success as a team. Off the ice, not so much. Peterman says they clicked early.
We had very similar work ethics, very similar goals, obviously, but we approached the game the same way. We really enjoy like having fun on the ice, but then working really hard off the ice and showing up to our events really prepared. And we just always saw eye to eye on that stuff.
As a team, the two are now 3-time Canadian champions, and they're still in the running in these games, but they're going to be busy. Brett is doing double duty. He's also playing for the men's team, and both are still parenting. Their biggest fan, their 2-year-old son Luke, is in Italy, and again, they say it feels right.
Luke is, he's only here because of mixed doubles. That's how we met, and we really want to be able to share our Olympic experience with him, and he just adds perspective and makes those moments, even more special.
Mike Armstrong, Global News, Milan.
Wishing them lots of luck at the games. That's Global National for this Saturday night. I'm Colleen Christie. Tonight's Your Canada is Carstairs, Alberta. We love seeing Your Canada. Please keep emailing your photos to globalnational@globalnews.ca. Thanks for watching. Hope you'll join us again tomorrow. Have a great night.